Hi, welcome to Agent Prep with Lillie Hendy. Remember to tap that subscribe button and click the little bell so you get notified every time I post a new video, and go ahead and like this video. As you'll see on the screen, the source that we're using is Texas Real Estate Sales Exam, 4th edition. It was referred to me by one of my students years ago, and it's actually online. You can download it. However, it's also on our group under Files and on the first posting, okay, on the group. And you can download it. It is a PDF file. And I use this source because it has 4 exams. It has glossary. See exam 1, 2, 3, and 4. It has the test preparation. This is the author. And math review, a little bit of a refresher course. And what we do primarily is glossary and the exams. If I have a request to do math review, we will get into math review, and to some sessions I will do that, since now these recordings are being posted on YouTube. Okay, people, just go ahead and say good morning so we know you're here. All right, so that's the source that we're using, and that's the table of contents. And we will start today with insurance binder as the vocabulary. And hopefully this shows up clearly on your end. Okay, insurance binder. A document that states that temporary insurance is in effect until a permanent insurance policy is issued. Good morning, Miriam. So whenever we take a contract that's been executed by the realtor that received the contract last, it'll go to the title company or an escrow officer, who could be an attorney. And the lender, if it's going to be on a loan, the lender's going to require an insurance binder. So the buyer will end up searching for insurance companies, and we can recommend 3, or they find their own and get a quote, and then they pay for the insurance. The insurance company gives them a sheet of paper that's called the insurance binder, that they now have insurance, and they'll provide it to the lender. And that way the lender knows the property has been insured. Insured mortgage. A mortgage that is protected by Federal Housing Administration, FHA. Make sure you learn your acronyms so that you know, because that'll help you on the exam. FHA, Federal Housing Administration. So it's a type of loan, right? A mortgage. So a mortgage that is protected by FHA or by private mortgage insurance, PMI, private mortgage insurance. If the borrower defaults on the loan, the insurance must pay the lender the insured amount. And this insurance amount on an FHA loan is there for the life of the loan. And it could range from $155 on up. That's in addition to the PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That's part of the loan. So that would be an extra charge, an extra fee. Interest, a fee charged by a lender for the use of the money loaned. 2, a share of ownership in real estate. Okay, so if you have an interest in real estate, that's a certain percentage that you own of the real estate property. Could be land, home, a commercial business, lease. Okay, you have an interest in it. The interest rate, okay, is another thing. So there's a fee charged for that interest rate by the lender, who can have the loan insured by FHA, right? FHA loans are insured. VA loans are guaranteed. So that's 2 ways of thinking about interest. Interest rate and a percentage of ownership. Interest accrual rate, the percentage rate at which interest accrues on the mortgage. So interest rate accrues on the mortgage, and then we pay for it every month, right? And so that's accruing daily. So that's why we have also the annual percentage rate, APR, and that is typically higher than the standard interest rate of a loan because the annual percentage rate includes the cost of financing into it, and it's amortized for the 30 years. Interest rate. So as I mentioned on the interest, you have a percentage ownership. So the interest rate is the actual number that is being charged for the use of funds belonging to another. And it could be to a private person, a hard money lender, which in the old days they would call sharks. They would loan money, and if you didn't pay, oh boy, they'd be after you like the mafia. So an interest rate, today the interest rates are from 2% on up. Excellent, excellent, excellent interest rates. I've never seen them in my life lower than they are today. So this is an excellent time to purchase property, a home, residential property. When it goes into land and commercial, interest rates do go up, including with investments. And I'm still drinking my coffee, so you may hear sipping on the background. Okay. An interest rate buy-down plan. An arrangement where the property seller or any other property deposits money to an account so that it can be released each month to reduce the mortgagor's, and who's the mortgagor? The borrower. Monthly payments during the early years of a mortgage. During the specified time, the mortgagor's effective interest rate is brought down below the actual interest rate. So if the actual interest rate is 4% and they would like to have a little bit lower interest rate, they can pay a buy down rate, and they'll have that plan, and there'll be an agreement as to for what type of period it'll be, for how long it'll last. That's the specified period, okay? And so that interest rate will be a little bit lower than the actual rate. Okay, now interest rate ceiling. So think of a ceiling at the house. How far can you go? Just as high as the ceiling, right? So that is, the interest rate has a maximum amount that it can go up, and that's done on ARMs. And what's an ARM? Adjustable rate mortgage. Again, acronyms. The maximum interest rate that may be charged for an adjustable rate mortgage as specified in the mortgage note. So when a person ends up purchasing a property with an adjustable rate mortgage, okay, those are typically interest-only loans. And at the end of the term, and they're usually an odd number, 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 9 or 10. Okay, that's the typical. And that low interest rate, so they get an adjustable rate mortgage because the interest rate will be low and they're just paying the interest amount. The individuals that typically use something like that are investors that are going to hold the property for a short time, maybe while building, remodeling, or so, or for 4 or 5 years, something like that. At the end of that period, the interest rate can start adjusting, and it can only adjust up to a certain percentage. Thank goodness for that, because if it goes really high, oh boy, they're going to be in trouble, even if it's interest only. Interest rate floor. The minimum interest, so you have the ceiling and now you have the floor, right? What's the lowest you can go? To the floor. The minimum interest rate for an adjustable rate mortgage, ARM, as specified in the mortgage note. Interim financing, a short-term loan made during the building phase of a project, also known as construction loan. when you end up finally being a realtor and starting to help people, a lot of people want to buy brand new homes or bring a design and build from scratch. It can be a stressful process, but it'll be a design that they accepted, that they approved with an architect or a designer, and they take that design to get it approved by the city planning and then take it to the builder. And so that is called an interim loan, a construction loan. So the borrower has to be approved before they can get an interim loan, construction loan. They have to be approved by a lender for a 30-year note. If they get to qualify or be pre-approved for a 30-year loan, then the lender will provide them with the construction loan, also known as interim financing. And so that'll happen for 6 months, a year, however long it takes to build the home. That money will be there. As you can see, it's a short-term loan, so that the builder can make draws from that money when they need more money for buying supplies or paying employees. So it's for supplies and labor and fees for permits and such. Once that construction is complete and there's a certificate of ownership, that loan ends and it converts. It is created, not converts. So then it goes into the 30-year loan, fixed rate loan, which could be FHA, VA, conventional, okay? And that becomes the loan that the individual will have for the rest of the time, and that loan will be interest and principal. These interim construction loans are interest only. My phone, my Facebook on my phone shut off. Oh, is everybody on here still? Yes, okay. Intestate, to die without having authored a valid will. I have a little kitten that's a little over 3 months, and he's on the floor just staring up at me because he jumped on my lap and I put him down. They're just like babies or kids, that they want your attention when we're busy. So a student of mine in the past said, the way I remember it, I think since it says intestate, he says within, without. So within reminds him that it's intestate, without reminds him that it's without a will. So when it's without a will, it goes to probate, right? Excuse me. Invalid, not legally binding or enforceable, like an invalid contract. Investment property. So invalid is not a contract that was voided. Invalid, it could be because it's an illegal contract. Okay, so it's not legally binding. Investment property, a property not occupied by the owner. And once you become a realtor, you start making your money. In order to have tax shelters, you'll want to buy investment property, right? To keep your income taxes low. So that's the end of the I's. Starting now with the J's. So joint tenancy, this is one of the 4 different types of ownership. Joint tenancy, right? The 4 are severalty, which means one person or one entity. Tenants in common, which is 2 or more individuals with equal or different percentages of ownership, don't have to be married. Joint tenancy, and I'll go over in a moment, and then tenants by the entirety. In the state of Texas, it's actually community property, which is for married individuals. That's joint tenancy by the entirety or community property. So joint tenancy is co-ownership that gives each tenant equal interest and equal rights in the property, including the right of survivorship. So when you end up doing contracts or a buyer's rep agreement, it'll say buyer or tenant, okay, because one of the owners is considered a tenant, because leases are called tenants, right? Are used for tenants. However, in contracts, they can call the individual a owner. Hi, Corinne, thank you for joining. Or a tenant. So it's co-ownership, 2 individuals minimum owning a property with equal interest and equal rights in the property, including the right of survivor. And so this one stands for an acronym called T-TIP. T as in Tom, T as in Tom, I as in Indigo, P as in Paul. So that stands for they have to have the same interest, taken title at the same time, so, and then have equal interest and full possession. T-TIP, remember that, write it down. T-TIP, T-T-I-P, time, title, interest, possession. It has to meet those 4 conditions in order to be joint tenancy. And it is 2 or more, right? Co-ownership. There's only one that is a single person or an entity, that's severalty. 2 or more. So if there are 2 people, they both have 50% ownership. They bought it at the same time. They went and signed the title at the same day, same time. They have equal percentage ownership and they have 100% use of the property. If there are 3, it's 33 1/3. If there are 4 owners, it's 25% each. Now, if one of them happens to die, the other 3 gain the ownership of the deceased person. Okay, and they can't sell without the permission of the other, or without the agreement, not permission, agreement of the other. Now, if one of them wants to share their ownership, let's say they're a third, they sell it to someone else. Well, that new owner is no longer a joint tenant. They are now a tenant in common. They have something in common with the other 2 that remain that have joint tenancy. Okay, this is a real tricky one that you want to pay attention to. Just remember, joint, it has, they join together, they have to work together, right? In order to do something on our body, on elbow, our shoulder, our knee. Can't do it one without the other. Joint venture, an agreement between 2 or more parties to engage in a specific business enterprise, okay? Specific, not general. It's specified. And they're usually going to be a limited liability corporation or a corporation. So joint venture, it's going to be 2 or more parties. Tenants in common, when you see words like that, tenants in common, 2 or more. Joint, 2 or more. We have 2 knees, 2 elbows, 2 shoulders, 2 ankles, 2 wrists, right? Joints. Judgment, a decision rendered by court determining the rights and obligations of parties to an action or lawsuit. So that when there is an encumbrance on a property, one of them could be a judgment, right? And a judgment that was attached to the property. It could be child support, spousal support, those types of judgments. And they can be attached, okay, to a property. And it'll be recorded in the title. In order to be able to sell a property, those have to be taken care of. A judgment lien, or they have to be removed, okay? That becomes a cloud on the title. Judgment lien, a lien on the property of a debtor resulting from a court judgment. Okay, just like child support or spousal support or mechanic's lien, right? What's a mechanic's lien? When there were contractors working on the property and the contractor didn't pay them. Okay, so they request a judgment, okay, in order to put a lien on that property and get paid at the time that that property is sold. That is a judgment lien. Judicial foreclosure. There are two types of foreclosure, judicial and non-judicial. In the state of Texas, we have non-judicial foreclosure. A judicial foreclosure is a proceeding that is handled as a civil lawsuit and conducted through court, used in some states, and typically the central to eastern states. However, even on the western states that are non-judicial, occasionally there will be a judicial type of closing, depending on how the deed of trust specifies it. And the deed of trust is similar to a mortgage, okay? It's all the jargon, legal jargon on what a lender can do and a borrower can do in case there's a default, or what can change or not. Typically, the lender has, the majority of the rights, because they're the ones that loan the money. So in Texas, remember, non-judicial. So judicial, they've got to go to court. The judge makes a decision on allowing the sale to take place. In Texas, the deed of trust describes the steps that the trustee will take in order to process a foreclosure. So in a non-judicial state like Texas, we have a deed of trust which has three parties, right? The owner, the borrower, the trustee, and the beneficiary. Trustor, trustee, and beneficiary. The beneficiary, of course, is the lender. Okay, the trustor is the mortgagor, is the borrower. Judicial foreclosures can take longer. Non-judicial, they're already described exactly what gets done, and it is specific to each state. Each state has the different foreclosure laws. In Texas, our foreclosure can start in 21 days. The trustee can start the process of sending out notices. Excuse me. In other states, like where I was in Oregon, it was 4 months. So we could do a lot of short sales. The short sales have started happening here is when a lender will accept less money than what is owed on the loan. Reason being, the property value has depreciated. And right now, it's not necessarily that people are losing their properties because value depreciated. They may be losing their properties because due to the pandemic, they lost a job, they got sick, they passed away, or whatever it could be, okay? So then they're going to request to the lender to accept something less than what is owed. Well, the lender wants to get paid, and typically they provided a loan with some sort of down payment, and they're insured. If it's an FHA loan, they're insured by the Federal Housing Administration. If it's a VA loan, they're guaranteed by the Veterans Administration. So those individuals can let go of their properties. And so that prevents them from going into foreclosure, okay? So those properties will have a short sale, and I saw one last week as a listing that we were gonna look at. Okay, a long description about judicial foreclosure, but that's something that, starting out right now as a realtor, you may experience short sales and foreclosures happening. So you'll want to get up to read about the Texas foreclosure laws. Jumbo loan, or whatever state you're in. Jumbo loan, jumbo, right, big. A loan that exceeds Fannie Mae's mortgage amount limits, also called a non-conforming loan. The amount of these jumbo loans have increase through the years. Okay, so there's a limit as to the amount a jumbo loan can be. So that is a loan that exceeds Fannie Mae's mortgage amount limits. Non-conforming loans. Junior mortgage, and so that's provided by some of the banks, some lenders. Junior mortgage. So if your father is a senior, they have priority, right? They have seniority. So a junior mortgage has lower seniority. Any mortgage that is inferior to a first lien. Your father is the first. I'm also a junior, right? My mom is also Lillie. So that junior mortgage is inferior to your dad in this way. And that will be satisfied only after the first mortgage, also called a secondary mortgage. So the senior parent, okay, has priority. They're considered the first lien, and you'll deal with this when you're dealing with a foreclosure, or you go to the court steps to buy property for an investor, not buy property, to represent an investor and make offers at the auction, at the courthouse auction. If there happens to be more than one mortgage on that property, the first lender is the one that will file the foreclosure, right? Because they have the most money invested. They will get paid after property taxes. Property taxes is the first lien. Mortgage, that's priority. The first mortgage has then the second priority after the property taxes, and then comes the second lien, the second mortgage. Second lien may get nothing. So property taxes will get paid first, and then the first mortgage. If there's any left over after that, then it goes to the second mortgage company. At some point, the second mortgage may file the foreclosure so that they can get their money. And so then they file it, and they will get paid and probably buy the first mortgage. The first mortgage wants to get the property, so the first mortgage will buy out the second one. Okay, so the second one will get something instead of nothing. If there are other liens, like judgments, mechanics liens, they may get nothing. And if we're representing a buyer a seller or a buyer in this, if you're representing the seller and you become a short sale expert, you would be negotiating with the mortgage company and all those lien holders to provide a discount. Better to get something than nothing. And when you're a realtor and you're dealing with a client with an offer and they don't seem to want to come to an agreement, we start giving up some of our commission, and so does the lender and the title companies and everybody involved, so that we can close the contract, because we've already done a lot of work. So we'd rather get something than nothing. Some people take it personal, get angry, and say, forget it. I don't want anything. That's the wrong attitude. We're here to come to a common decision, mutual agreement, and find solutions, okay, for our clients. And if we have to give a little, we give a little, okay? Sometimes give more, especially when the properties are higher priced. All right, now we're headed into the L's. Any questions so far? I haven't seen anybody saying they don't understand something. Okay, no questions. As you know, as some of you already know, there are a little delay between what I'm showing and what you end up seeing. Okay, nothing, no questions. All righty. Okay, continuing on. Laches. A doctrine used by a court to bar the assertion of a legal claim or right based on the failure to assert the claim in a timely manner. So when you have a latch on a door, right? The latch slides to prevent the door from opening, right? From the interior for somebody to break in. So this is a doctrine, a document, a latch used by a court to bar, okay? So when you don't want to let somebody in the house, you have the latch or you have a bar across it. You're preventing somebody, okay, to come in. So here it's a court to bar the assertion of a legal claim or right based on the failure to assert the claim in a timely manner. Okay, and if when something like that doesn't satisfy your understanding of it, okay, then you go and you quickly search it online. When you can find something on your own, learn to do that. You're getting into a business that you will need to be resourceful and find solutions for yourself if nobody's around. It's your own business, okay? We go through a training and a growing pains process. However, there's a lot accessible to us and available, and so be resourceful and research things on your own. And the quickest way right now, there's almost anything and everything on the internet. Doesn't mean it'll always be 100% accurate, but do that. Get accustomed to doing that. So latches, ooh, I forgot I need to turn this off so I don't lose credits here. I use that with my YouTube. You see this K here, it's keywords everywhere. All right, and I pay for that service. Latches, an unreasonable delay in making an assertion or claim, such as asserting a right, claiming a privilege, or making an application for redress, which may result in refusal. And it'll give you other explanation. What are the elements of latches? And what is doctrine of latches in real estate? And equitable. So there are different descriptions that you can look for until you understand it. What does latches mean? Okay. So here's another one, negligence in the observance of a duty. Okay. Latches mean in law, invoking latches in a reference. So remember, a latch is like a latch on a door, preventing something. Okay. Land. The earth from its surface to the center and the airspace above it. So land is the floor, right? It's the ground. However, if there's a mountain, the land goes up towards the sky and then down to the center of the earth, right? There's a movie called Explore to the Center of the Earth, or something to the center of the earth. Very interesting. I like science movies, scientific. So land again, the earth from its surface. So the surface is what we stand on, to the center, to its center, and the airspace above it. So commercial properties can own also the space above them. They will pay a certain amount of money to somebody else so that the owner of a property next to them will not build a building higher than theirs, thus eliminating their view. And so they can pay for that space, or they can lease that space above them. Very interesting, right? Just like we can lease or own a part of the seashore, you can own or lease a part of the sky. Let's say you don't want any airplanes going by your property. You can lease that airspace, own that airspace. Landlocked. Property surrounded on all sides by property belonging to another. Okay, so let's say on your property, the front of your property is the road, and there's property behind you. However, there's no road between you and the owners to your left and to the right, but there's land behind you that belongs to somebody else. Well, that land is locked. by your land and those around you. That property owner doesn't have access to getting to that land unless going through your land, and they at some point will request a lease. I'm sorry, an easement. So that land behind you is locked by your land. So property surrounding all sides by property belonging to another. So investors will buy land like that because they know, let's say in the county, in the country, because it may have lots of trees, lots of evergreen, and they can make money from the trees, you know, cut them down and sell the wood. And so they'll buy land like that, and then it'll become bare and they can add new small trees, right, to grow back. At a later time, there may be a change of the land. The owners of the land in front sell and it gets torn down, and so now a development can take place. So a lot of things can happen. You would think, why would somebody buy a land like that? Well, never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Okay? And they want to invest money. It's a tax write-off, an investment. Okay, all right, welcome to Agent Prep with Lillie Hendy. Remember to tap that subscribe button and click the little bell so you get notified every time I post a new video, and go ahead and like this video.